Hi, Amber. I've always been a bad girl. I often skipped school, didn't study hard, and hung out with delinquents. But recently, I got into big trouble. I was having a really bad day. The principal called me to his office before classes. Amber, your behavior and academic performance are terrible. If you don't get your act together soon, you'll be expelled. I knew I should heed his words, but studying was so boring. After school, I went for a walk around the city with my friends and boyfriend. Juan was boasting about the bike his brother had let him drive. He was showing off in front of us and driving down the street. I want to try it too. You don't know how to drive. What's the big deal? I jumped on the bike and took off. I had actually wanted to drive for a long time, and I knew the theory well. Unfortunately, the reality of driving turned out to be much more difficult than I expected. At first, everything was going fine, but then I lost control of the bike, and it started to skid. A car was coming towards me. I swerved to the side, braked, and knocked over a trash can, and almost crashed through a shop window. An angry driver got out of the car that I had almost collided with. "Stop right there. Show me your license." Juan quickly caught up to me and got on the bike. I grabbed him by the waist, and we took off. The rest of our friends scattered as well. As soon as we were safe, Juan pounced on me. "Are you insane? You don't know how to drive. Don't yell at me." In case you haven't noticed, there were cameras outside that store. I wouldn't be surprised if the police started looking for us because of you. Thanks for nothing. We had a fight. He infuriated me. The next day, we found out that Juan had been right. Our friend's dad was a cop. He told me I really had got caught on camera. Damn it, I was in big trouble. Let's pause here, and I'll tell you why I was so scared. The thing was, I lived with my mom. Dad was a military man, always away on business trips. We hadn't seen him in a year, but if he came back and found out what I had gotten myself into, I would be finished. I came home in a terrible mood. Familiar voices were coming from the living room. Wait a minute, had Brittany really arrived? She had! Mom was drinking tea with her in the kitchen. By the way, I forgot to tell you about my sister. We were twins, and looked like 2 drops of water, but that was where the similarities ended. She was a boring goody two-shoes. Made me sick. Dad was often away, and raising both of us was too hard for Mom. That was why she sent Brittany to an elite women's boarding school. Hi, Amber. She was smiling even though she wasn't really happy about our reunion. To be honest, our relationship wasn't very good. Come and sit with us. I reluctantly plopped down on a chair. I was just telling Mom how great life at the boarding school is. Brittany is such a smart girl. She gets the best marks in all subjects. The best marks in all subjects. Ugh. When I went to bed, Brittany suddenly came into my room. She wanted to talk to me alone. You know, I'm not actually doing that great. I just didn't want to upset Mom. I have a classmate called Miranda. She's always bullying me. I don't want to go back to the boarding school because of her. If only we could swap places. You would have definitely put her in her place. I'm not as brave as you. Brittany's confession stunned me. I would have never thought she had any problems. I suddenly got an idea. Probably the craziest one I had ever had. Let's do that. I'll go to the boarding school instead of you and put Miranda in her place. Meanwhile, you will solve my problems at school. In a couple of weeks, we will switch back. Brittany looked at me with surprise. I thought she would say no, but that's a great idea. The next day, we changed into each other's clothes and went downstairs. Mom, of course, didn't suspect anything. She had face blindness. Because of her disease, she could not recognize anyone's faces, so she brought me to the boarding school. As soon as I was in the schoolyard, I almost broke out laughing. There were only girls around me. They were wearing identical uniforms. Some of them were reading, and one girl was embroidering, of all things. Was I in the 19th century? In the evening, I walked around the boarding school and looked around. Everything inside was as pink as our uniforms. Ugh, it was awful. The next day, I mentally prepared to play the role of Brittany and went to class. I tried not to stand out, so I listened to the teachers, did not chat in class, and didn't even yawn. I was hanging around in the hallway during a break when a teacher came out of the classroom. He was carrying a huge stack of textbooks. When I was passing by, he suddenly stumbled, and the textbooks fell on my foot. Ah. I swore using such words that ladies around us were flabbergasted. The teacher stared at me in shock, as did my classmates. There was a tense pause. Sorry, I spent this weekend at home with my sister. She is such a dirty mouth. I've been listening to her for so long that now it just slipped out. Everyone was surprised but believed me. After that, I tried to keep quiet and not draw attention to myself, but then someone messed it all up. After school, a girl came up to me. Well, Brittany, did you run away home for the weekend? I hope you wrote my essay for me, or you'll be sorry. I wanted to snap back at her, but I knew I couldn't afford to make a scene. That was probably the Miranda my sister had told me about. Of course, I'm almost done with it. I'll give it to you tonight. Miranda smiled smugly. I mentally rubbed my hands together in glee. She wouldn't be smiling for much longer. In the evening, I took Miranda away from prying eyes and pressed her up against the wall. She tried to pull away, but I held her tight. Listen here, if you mess with me again, you're finished. Got it? From this day on, I will not write any essays for you. You should stay away from me. Miranda was so shocked. She turned red, stared at me, and was silent. I pushed harder. Well, are we clear? Miranda nodded, and only then did I let her go. She practically fell and ran to her room. Now she would definitely leave me alone. I thought I had dealt with the biggest problem, but I was wrong. Brittany and I hadn't taken one thing into account. Unlike her, I wasn't a straight-A student and couldn't study as well as she did. The next day we had a biology test. Of course, I bombed it. Brittany, you are the best student in my class. I don't know what came over you today, but I'll let you retake the test. Right after that class, I locked myself in the bathroom and called my sister. I've dealt with Miranda, but you'll have to help me with my studies. I sent her the task, and Brittany quickly did it. As a result, the teacher was satisfied and gave me a good mark. From that day on, my sister started to study for me. What a life. I was loving it and enjoying such holidays. I didn't have to worry about anything, or so it seemed, until the drama club supervisor suddenly approached me. Yes, you heard that right. There was a drama club in the boarding school, and all those good girls had a chance to take part in a play. Brittany, is there a problem? You didn't show up at yesterday's rehearsal. We were handing out roles for the new play. You got the one no one wanted. Naturally, I didn't want to take part in any of it. Theater was for losers, but when I tried to refuse, the supervisor grew suspicious. I had no choice but to agree. When I came to the hall, they were rehearsing Romeo and Juliet there. What a nightmare. Couldn't they have chosen anything else? The supervisor handed me the script. You're going to play Tybalt, although the role doesn't really suit you. Tybalt? Who is that? I sneakily Googled it and found out he was Juliet's brother. It seemed that the dude was cool and not boring at all. Staying in character came easy to me. The funny thing was that I didn't have to pretend on stage. I fought and acted tough. Basically, I was myself. Everyone was so impressed with my performance that they gave me a standing ovation. Wow, Brittany, I didn't know you're such a cool actress. Luckily, they didn't suspect anything. Several weeks passed. I kept pretending to be a boring, perfect student and going wild on stage. Miranda didn't bother me anymore, and there were no problems with my studies either. But one day, I got tired of such a life. I wanted something exciting to happen again and called Brittany. It's time for us to switch back. Let's wait a couple more days. I'm dealing with your problems over here, getting better marks and all that. I agreed to stay at the boarding school for a little longer, but a few more days passed and Brittany disagreed again. Let's wait a bit longer. It was getting annoying. My sister was obviously hiding something. Why didn't she want to go back to life as usual? I wasn't used to sitting and waiting, so I decided to act. The boarding school has strict rules. We weren't allowed to leave its territory without a good reason. That didn't stop me. I chose the moment when the guard usually left the security room, went there, and used his computer to turn off the cameras in the yard. Then I went outside and climbed over the fence while no one was watching. I hadn't expected it to be so easy, except at the last moment, I saw a silhouette appear by the gate. I thought it was Miranda, although it was probably just my imagination. When I got home, Brittany was still at school. I rushed there and suddenly saw her on the street. You won't believe what she was doing. My sister was holding Juan's hand, and they were kissing? What the hell? What is the meaning of this? How could you steal my boyfriend? Brittany was silent and looked lost, so I pounced on Juan. That's Brittany. I'm the real Amber. I know. Brittany told me everything a long time ago. We liked each other and started dating. You've always insulted me, but your sister is a real sweetheart, and I adore her. I wasn't just angry, but hurt as well. How dare they? Especially that traitor Brittany. That's enough. Go back to your boarding school. It's over. No, I liked being you, so you are the one who should go back to the boarding school, and I will keep living your life. What the hell? Was she nuts? Then I noticed my friends nearby. When they came up to us, I told them everything. I am Amber. She's impersonating me. We know, but Brittany is better than you. She helped us with our homework, taught us how to eat healthy, and started a drama club at our school. We star in plays now. I felt like I'd been transported to a parallel universe. Were those troublemakers now in a drama club and studying well? It made no sense. I came to the principal feeling horrified. I am the real Amber, and my sister Brittany has been going to classes instead of me. What kind of nonsense is this? Amber's academic performance has improved a lot lately. She's been on her best behavior, so I don't want to hear this. Stop wasting my time. How could it be? I could only think of one other thing to do. I decided to confess everything to my mother. She would definitely believe me. I got lucky she was at home. Mom, I need to tell you something. A couple of weeks ago, Brittany and I switched places. I went to the boarding school instead of her. Now I'm back, but she doesn't want to leave. Mom looked from me to my sister dumbfounded and stayed silent. Juan, tell her, you know the truth. Brittany, calm down, you're having a nervous breakdown. Mom, Brittany is being bullied by a girl at school. She told me about it in secret. That's why she's coming up with excuses not to go back there. I couldn't believe my ears. Both Juan and my sister betrayed me. Brittany, I just got a call from the boarding school. They told me you ran away. What were you thinking? You've always been such a good girl, but now you're acting like Amber. I wanted to howl. Why didn't anyone believe me? Mom brought me back to the boarding school and I couldn't do anything. Miranda was standing at the entrance looking pleased with herself. I probably really had seen her back then. She must have told the principal about my escape. But as soon as I stepped toward her, Miranda got scared and ran away. I was lying in my room, staring at the ceiling in the evening. I couldn't believe Brittany had stolen my life. Then I suddenly got an idea. But of course, I simply had to go back to acting like I used to. I stopped wearing that stupid uniform and started skipping classes. All of my teachers and classmates were horrified. They started complaining about me to the principal. That was exactly what I wanted. At some point, her patience snapped. She called my mother to the boarding school. I was looking forward to going to the principal's office. Now Mom would finally understand who the real Amber was. But I was in for another disappointment. First of all, she came with Brittany. And secondly, this is just teenager rebellion. Amber has become a perfect student and behaves herself. Brittany, on the contrary, has become a bully. Well, that was it. I was finished. Everyone was going to call me Brittany for the rest of my life. I was desperate and didn't know what to do, but then someone walked into the office. Everyone was stunned. Me, Mom, even Brittany? It was Dad. Hello, I just got back. Our neighbor said that you were all at the boarding school, so I immediately came here. It was my last chance. Dad, you are my last hope. Who do you think I am? Why are you asking me such stupid questions? Can't I tell my daughters apart? Of course you are Amber and she is Brittany. Just imagine. He pointed correctly. I felt so relieved. Finally, all the madness was over. I had to tell Dad the truth about everything. He frowned and I braced myself for the worst. Well, you've both done something really bad. Your punishment will be no pocket money for 2 weeks. Did I hear that right? And that was all? Dad suddenly laughed. Switching places. How did you even think of such a thing? Things went back to normal. Brittany went back to boarding school and I came back to my school. I was over the moon. I thought things would be like they used to, but I was in for an unpleasant surprise. Everything at school had changed. Juan didn't talk to me anymore. One day I saw him text Brittany that he missed her. My friends had changed as well. They stopped skipping classes and joined the drama club. For the first time in my life, I had no one to get into trouble with. One day, I came to watch the rehearsal after classes and suddenly remembered what being on stage at boarding school had been like. Surprisingly enough, I liked it. Maybe I could try to change my life too. I decided to give it a try. Instead of wandering the streets in the evening, I stayed at home and studied. The next day, the teacher praised me. Well done, Amber, what a brilliant answer. To my surprise, it felt great to hear that. Maybe studying well wasn't at all that horrible. Gradually, I started getting better marks and even joined the drama club. Of course, I hadn't suddenly become a goody two-shoes, but I did change. Juan and I started talking again and became friends. One day, he asked me if we could talk. Your sister texted me. Miranda has been bothering her at the boarding school again. She must have realized it hadn't been Brittany who stood up to her that time and went back to bullying her. You know, even though I've decided to become better, I will make an exception for Brittany. We hadn't talked lately even though I had forgiven her. The very thought of Miranda bullying her again made me furious. The same day, I came to the boarding school. I just walked into the yard when I saw Brittany and Miranda. I'll turn your life into a living hell if you don't take that test for me. Brittany almost burst out crying. Hey, get away from her. If you touch Brittany again, I'll come and kick your butt, got it? When Miranda saw me, she turned very pale. She nodded quickly and left. Brittany immediately rushed to me and hugged me tightly. Amber, thank you. I'm sorry for everything. I fell in love with Juan and that's why I treated you so terrible. It's all in the past. I'm not angry anymore. We're sisters after all. Since then, we've grown very close. Everyone makes mistakes, but I realized how important it is to forgive and stick together. Who are you closest with? Tell us in the comments down below.
The Foundation's activities are hidden from the people's eyes, but each of you can face the terrible anomalies and immerse yourself in the atmosphere of a powerful organization. The most dangerous objects leave the secret archives pages and come to life in the SCP Chronicle's unpredictable storyline. And for the most desperate individuals who venture to dig into the secret protocols, we always have a portion of amnestics.